Hey y'all, this is Audra Hicks, your Tennessee Realtor. Today I'm going to talk to y'all about a seller's net sheet. Yes, what the seller is going to possibly end up with at the end of the transaction once they sell their home. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned because I put the real in real estate. So I wanted to come on and talk to y'all about a seller's net sheet. So when I have a listing and I want to provide my sellers with what we think they might end up with should the home go under contract for whatever the list price is, then I can do a preliminary seller's net sheet based on that. We don't really know until we are in that transaction and in a contract, what that seller has agreed to pay on the buyer's behalf, and all of that. So you really don't know, and you can't give more concrete numbers or anything until you're under contract, and then you don't really know concrete numbers really until a lot of things happen during that transaction, such as the home inspection. You don't know if the seller's going to end up paying concessions for in lieu of repairs or whatever. But I wanted to go over some of the things that you're going to see in a seller's net sheet. I love to do seller's net sheets. As an agent, I think that's one thing that we should have a strong point in is math and accounting and know how to do that. Some do not, but there are great apps for that. A lot of title companies do have apps and things that we can use to just, if we know all the info, we put it in there, and then it will bring in, if you're using your own title company for things, it's going to bring in the fees for the title expenses and stuff automatically in there. So it makes it a lot easier. And then you can print it out or you can email it or whatever. And it breaks it down. A lot of the things that are in there, you need to know the sales price. To start with, that is the top thing that is on that seller's net sheet is the sales price, okay? You need to know the outstanding mortgage balance for that seller and maybe add 1,000 or 2,000 to it just to give you some fudge room in there because they're going to add interest to that. When they get the payoff, there's going to be interest. So if it's 400,000 or 401,000, it may be 402 or 403. Who knows? Until they get the payoff with title gets the payoff for the seller. So we won't know for sure on that, but it's a great idea. It gives you a good idea of what it is, just knowing that payoff. You're going to deduct any agent commissions and fees that are paid to the agencies, any transfer taxes, title insurance, who's paying title insurance, and all of that is going to be in the contract. Who's paying what as far as title expenses. So sometimes buyers pay some, sometimes sellers pay some, sometimes sellers pay all, sometimes buyers pay all. We just don't know until we are under contract on that. Any escrow fees, recording fees, and home warranty. If the seller is paying a home warranty for the buyer, that's going to come out and be debited out of the seller side. In accounting, there's always a debit and a credit. So you're going to have two sides to that coin. You're going to have the seller side and the buyer side, and you're going to debit it from one side and credit it to the other. So that's how that goes. If there's any HOA fee, transfer fees, and repairs or credits. And I made a list of things that are on the seller's settlement statement or seller's net sheet. So repairs and credits. So if we get into the home inspection and there's something or whatever may be, if there's repairs that need to be done, and the buyer's okay with just getting them done after closing, and we don't think that's going to hold up the lending process, depending on what kind of loan they have, then the seller may just say, I'm going to give a credit at closing in lieu of repairs. That way they're not out of pocket any money at that point. It will just come out of the proceeds of the sale of the home. So property taxes. Here's how property taxes are in Tennessee. I do not know how they are in other states, but here in Tennessee, we pay property taxes this year for last year. So we're always a year behind. So if you were selling your home this year and you closed, say, March 31st, you're going to pay property taxes, from January 1st through March 31st. You'll need to add those up, figure out what the property taxes are, and divide it by the days. So you need to figure out how many days that you are going to have to put in there to deduct from the seller's side, because they're going to pay that. The buyer's going to pay from April 1st through the end of the year usually. It just depends on their lender and what they need to pay in their escrows up front. Other credits to the buyer. There may be other credits or something that needs to be on there for the seller to pay on buyer's behalf. It could be closing costs, in anything. I mean, it could be whatever they have worked out in that contract that the seller needs to pay. There may be miscellaneous fees, notary fees, courier fees. That's part of title. And usually whenever I get all the title expenses and all of that from my title, I deduct all that already. So your net proceeds, the estimated amount the seller will receive after all the above costs are subtracted from the selling price. This is an estimate that can change based on final closing cost and any adjustments during the closing. So at the end of the transaction, when we are going to go to closing, my title company will send me the ALTA statement or the settlement statement and want me to go over it and make sure that everything looks good there. So I always critique it and say, hey, I don't see either, I don't see this on there, or I see this, but why is my seller paying this? Or, why is my buyer paying this? Whatever it may be. We didn't agree to that. It's not in the contract. And it may be from the other title company because they, we have two different title companies usually, but there's sometimes the same title company that's doing both of them. But usually it's a split closing and one has their own title company and the other has their title company. So they all have to, get everything put in. Somebody might have input something wrong. So at that point, that's where me as an agent, I look at it and I say, hey, what's this for? Or, hey, this isn't supposed to be there, or the buyer's supposed to pay that, whatever it may be. So we look over it. I look over it even on the buy side when I'm a buyer's agent and have a client buying a home. So sometimes I'll have a listing and that seller ends up buying. So then I'll have two ALTA statements to look at because we're going to closing at the same time and we are selling a house. And 30 minutes after that, we are, as we get through that closing immediately, we're going to sign and buy a home too. So I'll look over the ALTA statements and then everything's finalized and then we get to go to closing. So that's how that part works. Some people don't understand what realtors actually go through behind the scenes. I just had clients tell me this week, I know that you always have the best interest for us at heart, and you always have. So, but there are things that people just don't see that you do. And I said, I know. People just don't understand what we go through, especially an agent that is a concierge to their client. And I am a concierge for life, as I've said in many videos, and I will be my client's concierge even after the sale. So everybody knows they can call me or text me or talk to me at any time, and I'm there for them. So hopefully this has helped you kind of streamline that process and see what that's all about behind the scenes, and more about a seller's net sheet on what our sellers will end up with at the end, and how we go about giving them those numbers. So y'all please hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for the next one. I will see y'all soon. Bye, y'all.